My name is Kim. I am 65 years old, and I have always been considered a respectable businessman. I spent my entire life building my fortune alongside my wife, Mrs. Chu. She was always my support, my strength, and my companion through decades of marriage. I could never have imagined that one business trip would change everything. I was invited to Dubai by an influential sheikh to close an important deal. The proposal involved millions and would be the pinnacle of my career. I was determined to ensure everything went smoothly and to bring home the contract that would further solidify our wealth. When I arrived in Dubai, I was greeted with an opulence I had never seen before. The sheikh treated me like a king, offering luxurious banquets and extravagant gifts. Everything seemed perfect until the moment he made an unexpected proposal. Mr. Kim, as a sign of my trust and respect, I would like to offer you a night in my harem, the sheikh said with a confident smile. I was stunned. I had never imagined I would receive such an offer. My first reaction was to refuse. I am married, I replied, trying to maintain my composure. I thought of Mrs. Chu, always faithful and by my side in every battle of life. But the sheikh insisted, claiming it was an honor and that refusing might be considered an offense. His words weighed on my mind. I was in a different country, with its own traditions and expectations. I felt an invisible pressure. And as much as I tried to resist, I ended up agreeing, more out of fear of losing the deal than desire. When I entered the harem, I was greeted by 100 women. They were stunning, with seductive looks and smiles that made me forget everything else for a moment. I felt surrounded by an atmosphere of power, luxury, and desire, something I had never experienced before. Throughout my life, I had always been a man of control. But there, surrounded by so much beauty, my resistance crumbled. I ended up giving in to the charms of the women, a decision that at that moment seemed inevitable, though I knew I was betraying everything I held sacred. At dawn, the weight of what I had done hit me like a wave. I returned to the hotel with guilt eating away at me. How could I have done this to Mrs. Chu? She trusted me blindly, and I had betrayed her in a way I never thought I was capable of. I tried to focus on the work and meetings ahead of me, but my mind was elsewhere. The image of Mrs. Chu at home, unaware of everything, haunted me. I decided that I would never tell her what had happened. This would be my secret, buried with me. However, fate had other plans. The next morning, during an important meeting with the sheikh and other investors, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It was as if the weight of all my guilt was compressing my heart. I tried to ignore it, but the pain became unbearable. I collapsed to the floor, breathless, as those around me panicked. I knew that this was the end. In the midst of the chaos, my thoughts turned to Mrs. Chu. My last thought was how much I wished I had done things differently. My death was sudden. The heart attack took me in a matter of minutes. The contract was signed, but I never got to see the fruits of my last deal. What remained was a legacy of secrets and regrets. After my death, Mrs. Chu inherited all of my fortune. She was now a wealthy woman, but without the husband with whom she had shared her life. She continued her journey without ever knowing what I had done on that fateful night in Dubai. However, I sometimes wonder if she suspected. Mrs. Chu had always been a perceptive woman, and I imagine that she might have known somehow that something had changed in me. But instead of confronting me, she chose to move forward, remembering me as the man with whom she had built a life. The irony is that while I lived tormented by my secret, she probably never knew. And even if she had, I believe that in the end, the love and history we shared would have surpassed what happened that night. Now, looking from where I am, I understand that power and luxury are fleeting. What truly matters are the people with whom we build our lives. And Mrs. Chu, in her quiet dignity, was the greatest treasure I could have ever had.